Welcome back, fellow investors. It's Big Brain, or rather, Churchill Joseph. So, the last time we talked, or we had a show, I was talking about Bran and Ken. So, Bran, I gave an example where Bran bought a Lamborghini worth $250,000. On the other hand, Ken bought, no, Ken opted to save that money in his savings account. So the topic was actually how do we get to know one who is rich and how do we get to know one who is wealthy? Because, yeah, there's a very big difference between the two terminologies, rich and wealth. So, yeah, before we go into that analogy of Bran and Ken, let me just take you through one or two things I know about being rich and being wealthy. So let's start with uh, how will how does the community, or rather how does the society judge you to be a rich person? So you see, actually richness is a sign of spending. What do I mean by richness as a sign of spending? This is what I mean. Take an example of person A. Person A owns a mansion worth 2 million Kenyan shillings. He owns a watch worth 20,000 Kenyan shillings. He owns a suit worth 30,000 Kenyan shillings. And maybe he owns a car worth 2.5 million Kenyan shillings. Now, to both me and you, like from the way we look at that person, of course, the perception that will come into our mind is that, this guy has made it, this guy is rich. But actually, let me tell you something interesting. You know the cars, you see the cars, the watch, the mansion, the fancy clothing. Those are signs of spending. Those are signs of spending. Get to know the difference. So, like if you, right now, if you own a watch worth 20,000 Kenyan shillings, what that would communicate to me is actually you are willing to spend 20,000 Kenyan shillings on a watch. If you, let's say right now you buy a car worth 2.5 million Kenyan shillings, what that will communicate to me is that you're willing to buy a car worth that amount. Then let's take person person B. Person B is this one guy that he lives in a normal homestead, or rather he lives in a normal house. He wears normal clothing. He has this normal watch. Simply, the guy is a simple man. But where does his wealth come in play? You see, this person has an investment of real estate. He gets money monthly from his real estate, the houses that he has rented. This guy has some amount allocated in stocks. This guy also has some amount allocated in treasury bonds. This guy has some amount allocated in his savings account, the money market funds. This guy has some amount located in businesses, but still, he opts to live a simple life. So let's just highlight the differences between person A and person B. Both of them, like when it comes to the actual figures, they are rich. But for person B, we don't get to see it. Get my point? For person B, we don't get to see how rich the person is. Now that's wealth. That's wealth. And also, if you look keenly, comparing the two situations, you realize that person A actually buys what we call, or rather what we term as liabilities. Liabilities are basically things that take, or rather drain money away from you. A car, like, I don't mean to say you don't buy those things. I mean, yeah, it's nice to own them. But a car will take money away from you. You'll need repair. You'll need maintenance money. A home, okay, I'll get into the home concept, but for now let's stick to the car. The suits, they are things that can't generate income. A watch can't generate income. Even if you sell it, you'll sell it at a lower price because, of course, it would have depreciated. All right? Then we have person B. Remember I told you person B has a, real estate ownership. He gets money on a monthly basis. He also has some money invested in stocks which offer higher returns, for those who know how stocks work. Then he also has some money invested in the treasury bonds, which offers fixed returns. We'll get into that later on in our later videos. Then he also has some money invested in his savings account, which of course gains interest annually, compounded. So you see that the main difference between person A and person B is that when person A gets money, he buys luxuries which do not generate income. We term them as liabilities. While when person B gets money, he buys what we term as assets. Now, here is where the difference comes in. There's this concept of compounding effect. So the concept of compounding effects work this way. You see, it works on the basis of repeated action. Person A is one who gets money, buys cars, buys houses, lives that fancy life. Person B gets money, invests in real estate. He buys treasury bonds. He invests in bank savings account, the money market funds, stocks. So you find that over a period of time, of course, right now is like person A is richer, than person B, or rather to the society, to what the society has as richness, to what the society terms as richness. If you compare the two, the society will actually tell you person A is richer than person B, which is not the case. Because let's take a period of 10 years. In a period of 10 years, you realize that person A, the things he bought actually will drain him more amount of money than the money used to purchase them. Let's say the amount of money that your car will have drained you in 10 years' time, for sure, will be more than the amount you used to buy it. Well, on the other hand, we have person B. Person B invested in real estate, invested in stocks. In 10 years' time, of course, this person will have higher returns and will be able to buy more number of cars, more number of mansions, more number of those expensive clothing without actually feeling the pain of paying for them. So let's go back to our example, Bran and Ken. So Bran bought a Lamborghini worth $250,000. Ken, on the other hand, invested the $250,000 in his bank account. Now, here's where the difference comes in, So let's take a calculation of a period of 10 years' time. In 10 years' time, this is what will happen. Guys, in 10 years' time, this is what will happen. So, with a $250,000 investment at a rate, let's take a rate of 10%, averagely a rate of 10% compounded annually. So, with a $250,000 investment at a rate of 10% interest rate, you're looking at around $648,436 dollars in 10 years' time. So, meaning that $250,000 invested in a savings account, offering a 10% interest rate in a period of 10 years, you'd have gained way above twice the amount you invested. From $250,000 to $648,000. That's a huge amount of money you'd have gained. Double the amount. So, assuming that the interest rate is compounded annually. Then, take the other scenario. Brand bought a car worth $250,000. A Lamborghini. Of course, you'll need maintenance, repair, blah, 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 fuel, cost of, even if let's say, let's take for example the car is using electricity instead of fuel. Cost of electricity, like there'll be so many liabilities along that comes along with that, owning that car. So yeah, my assignment to you is that know the difference between richness and wealth. Because Robert Kiyosaki in his book said that actually wealth is a measure of time. What do I mean by wealth is a measure of time? Wealth is a measure of time. So stay with me now. Stay with me. What I mean by saying wealth is a measure of time. Wealth is actually the time you are able to survive if your salary or your main source of income was cut off. So let's say you're a mechanic, you're a lawyer, you're a teacher, you're a lecturer, you're a doctor. What if today your salary gets cut? How long are you able to survive without that your salary? So if you're able to survive for 2 years without your salary, you'll be 2 years worth of wealth. If you're able to survive 5 years without your salary, you'll be 5 years worth of wealth. So the number of years you're able to survive without your salary, the wealthier you are. But richness will judge you by the properties you own. Now get to know the difference. Richness shouts while wealth whispers. Richness is what we see. Wealth is what we don't see. So my assignment to you is get to know the difference between richness and wealth, or rather wealth. Don't be rich, be wealthy. Big brain.